Hi, welcome to Integrative Lawyers of the World, where we believe that lawyers can contribute to the healing of the world by being change makers, peacemakers, and just making a transformative and positive impact on the legal profession and beyond. We believe this because we know lawyers who are doing just these things from all around the world. Hi, I'm Carrie Raleigh, your host of Integrative Lawyers of the World. And joining us today from Brazil is Marcello Rodante. Marcello is a lawyer in Brazil. He co-founded the Brazilian Institute of Collaborative Law, and he continues to expand his studies and his efforts to transform his practice and to understand new ways to transform the practice of law. He has studied such things as spiral dynamics, conscious contracts, non-defensive communication, and more. So listen in and find out about all these wonderful topics and endeavors that he is undertaking and contributing to the legal profession. Hi, Marcello. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. And how are you doing?
I'm doing well, too. Thank you so much for asking. I'm very excited for our conversation today. Just to bring the audience up to speed, just quickly before we pressed record, you were telling me about so many of these topics that you have studied, and each one of them on their own sounds incredibly fascinating, and I don't know, they just kind of create like hope, that people are doing these things and studying these things and incorporating them into their legal professions. So let's back up for a little bit. Do you want to just introduce yourself to our audience?
Okay, thank you so much. Well, thank you for the invitation. It's an honor to be here with you and talk about those topics. For me, it's really an honor. Well, I would like to start saying that I consider myself a very privileged person. I'm born in an incredible family with a loving father and mother, a great sister. So I have never had to face prejudice, bias, or anything like this. So I'm a blessed person on that way. So I know that those privileges that I have received. And talking about myself too, to introduce me, I could say that I have a first marriage, which I have 3 daughters, lovely daughters, the loves of my life. And I got divorced, so I passed through a divorce, very respectful, very amicable, but was a great experience to me as a lawyer, as a family lawyer, to have my own divorce. And to become a better father, because it's different when you're divorced and you have 3 daughters. So I got into a second marriage, and life gave me more 2 stepchildren. So I have my my children from my heart. So I have nowadays a big family. So I have those big family, 5 children and a wife, and that's my life. That's why I say I'm a pretty happy person, a very very blessed. So considering all that, I truly believe that life gave me so much. I need to try to contribute to the world in some way. So I'm hardly trying to find how can help and contribute to a better world. Of course, it's not easy. And I totally understand that I need to become a better person. So it's all with me, not outside me, but within me. So that's a little bit about me for those who don't know me too much. I graduated in law in 2001. And I could say that I have worked my 8 years at the beginning with litigation. I work with family law, civil law, and corporate law, specifically in the field of litigation, which I must confess consumed me a lot of energy, and about litigation,
yeah.
how hard it is. And then maybe 12 years ago, 13 years ago, I had a major crisis in my life. I had a very good law firm, which was a successful law firm. And I have this crisis in my life because I think that my education, the things that I believe was clashing with
Yes.
the litigation practice, and I was very confused, and I had this major crisis, and I thought I would quit. That was an option for me at the time, and I was considering what can I do in my life, what can bring meaning to my life, and things like this. At that point, considering that I had a very well structured law firm at that time, well, I decided to stop and think, and then I recorded that I took a mediation course in 2005, like 3 or 4 years um, earlier from this crisis. And then I decided, well, maybe I should take a look to mediation again and see if I can bring something different to my practice as a lawyer. And then I got into some mediation courses again and negotiation courses again, and I started to work and try to transform the way at that time I was working. At the time, mediation in Brazil was just at the earliest and beginning to be spread around. So it was more like a family, more like a psychologists working with mediations,
I
not
see.
so much lawyers. It was really the beginning of the mediation in Brazil. But I think, well, maybe I could do differently. Maybe I can try to help people with that. And then I started to face how hard, at least at that time, was to work in this paradigm shift. Because at that time, people used to know me as a lawyer, a combative lawyer, a lawyer of the tribunal. No? And then I started to talk with things different. So about empathy, about compassion, about how they could learn with their conflicts. And it was not easy at the time. I think I lost some clients. I think my client portfolio dropped a little bit. And I also, at the time, I finished my partnership with my partner at the time because we were so different. We were with mindsets so different. And then I decided to dedicate myself only to work in this specific field, this collaboration field. So, um, and so life is so incredible. I met the collaborative practice at that time. Now I'm talking to you about 2013, 2014. And the collaborative practice in Brazil have just arrived at the time. So we have a group, a study group in São Paulo and a study group in Rio de Janeiro, and we are just studying. I remember that I went to the IACP Congress at the time with Olivia, Itania Almeida, and then they had applied at that time for a national prize, the idea of collaborative practice. And we three together, we have a lot of meetings, and we brought Pauline Tesler and her team to Brazil to have the first training in Brazil in 2014, if I'm not wrong with dates. Secondly, we brought Sherry Ebony, and she gave a training as well. And she trained us, the co-founder of the Brazilian Institute. And then we started doing the trainings for people in Brazil. And nowadays, I think.
Sherry Abney's with the global collaboration.
Yes. Exactly. More for civil issues than Pauline Tesler, which was for family issues. And we started to train people and lawyers in Brazil, and I think I was very excited because I didn't felt so much more lonely in my ideas. So it was amazing for me. It was a great experience, I could tell you. And the institute have grown. I don't know, maybe we have more than 4,000 or 5,000 lawyers that have took the training nowadays in Brazil. It was something that took some space in our legal system, which is amazing. But I kept studying, and I decided to go more into mediations, studying mediations and making lectures and courses to try to help people to understand the culture of peace. That's when I went to a post-graduation in study and peace studies and conflict transformations and so on. And what can I say and what can I contribute? I know by my own that it's not easy to make the paradigm shift. I have been struggling with this for so long.
Can we pause there for just a second? When you say
Yes.
make the paradigm shift, what are you talking about?
It's to try to change the format that we have been taught on the university to be a lawyer, to be someone that needs to win with arguments and to try to impose decisions and try to see with the lens of the law everything that's around us. And then we make this paradigm shift when we realize that we can make things differently.
Yeah.
And what brings meaning to people, what attend people, not only what law says that you have to do, how we can work in the decision-making process, how can we work with emotional balance, how can conflict be teach us to be a better person, what is to be a better person, what is to be in the world, what are our meanings, all these questions, those philosophical questions.
Because when I just want to stop there too, at the initial part of the paradigm, like when your concepts of what it is to be a lawyer, that is, the paradigm that you are in. And I know so much in litigation, it's focused on win or lose, right? There's only winners or losers. And then, and you win or lose by the adversarial system, basically by beating up the other side. And when I was in it, I had a similar experience or feeling like you. I did it for several years too, and it just felt like bullying a little bit. You have to bully the other side into submission. And some partners that I worked with use some very creative and graphic ways to describe that, of getting the other side into submission and by beating them up, pounding them down, or whatever. And so that's the paradigm or the context of traditional litigation. And so now when you're making a shift to seeing it in another way, how does that change? And it changes into, I think you phrased it, looking into creating a space of a culture of peace instead of the culture of the fight.
Yes. But yes, it is. I think it's an internal change and an external change as well. You change your language, you change the way that you try to present yourself. You change a lot of things in order to be, how can I say that? To be what you want to be. So you need to make some changes in your life. But the main question that I have and lesson that I have is that it's not easy. It's not easy, and that's something that I have been trying to understand and I keep trying to understand, because when you understand that conflict is part of human beings, is part of the existence, and then you could work conflict differently to try to learn, to try to become a better person and things like this. And there are always two sides of the story, and you can try to find out solutions in creative ways and options. So, but the point is that normally people don't want that. They don't want, in general, they don't want, when they are into the conflict, into the fight, they want revenge, they want the law, and they want blood. And when you try to move from this kind of spectrum, people normally resist to that. And then what I thought, sometimes people used to call me, oh, you are so naive. You are not more that combative guy. So you are the good man. I don't want the good man. I want the shark. So there are some decisions that you have to face and try to see what you want for your life. However, it's difficult. So what I have been working on is trying to help people to find how to make this paradigm shift in a more balanced way. I had to come back to some litigations, and nowadays I work with litigations. Also because I made peace with that, because I understood that our roles as integrative lawyers, could say, is that to include and transcend, not to exclude.
What do you mean by that, to include and to transcend?
You have to include new approaches. You have to include new visions and to transcend to another level. Then we're talking a little bit about spiral dynamics with that. But we have to transcend to another level of knowledge. And this is a process that it never ends. We are always bringing a new approaches. And the point is not to exclude the previous approach that we had. What can I mean to you is that there is litigation, there is negotiation, there is mediation, there are types of mediation, there's constellation, and there is restorative justice. There's so many approaches that you can use, and there are so many ways of being in the world. There are so many visions in the world that you must, not you must, but you should try to respect and understand all those levels of consciousness and try to see what can be more adequate for those specific levels. So that's my understanding of to be an integrative lawyer, is to include new approaches and to transcend, not excluding the previous approach that is available.
So in that, there are some things I want to go back and discuss just a little bit more because I just found them interesting. You had talked about getting to a place where you were in some sort of crisis, that you realize this is not me, and this is not how I want to live my my profession or practice
My
my
life,
profession, my life. And you took a
yes.
pause and to look back. And I'm just noting this because I would say, if not every one of our guests so far, most of our guests had some type of point like that, and they knew that they had to take a pause. And in that pause is where they got clarity or a sense of purpose or a direction. And I'm just emphasizing this for our guests because I'm just seeing this repeat pattern of the value and the need for us to all take a pause. Um, so when you took your pause, what did it feel like for you? What did you do during that pause? What can you explain your pause a little bit more?
Yes, I could explain that to you. I didn't quit at the time. I had a law firm, and so I was partner. So I didn't quit at the time completely because I had clients and lawyers that were working. But I could say that I changed the way I used to work. It was drastic. So it was very extreme. I can tell you. And at the time, I was wondering if I would stop, quit, or not quit. And then I started making a lot of courses, everything that you can imagine. I took courses for the religion's points of view. And I was working on the street helping kids and feeding them and things like this. So I decided to donate a lot of things that I had at the time. So that was part of my process at that time. I was so focused on trying to be a better person, to try to I don't know, maybe to realize that our whole in this universe is different, things like this. And I was out of balance, I could say. With, of course, with some clarity in my mind, of course. But the point is that at the time I had 3 daughters, I had to pay bills, I had a law firm to run, I had a lot of things. So this is the struggle for me in my life of being here. That's the struggle of the legal profession. When you face this crisis and you see that you should do differently, the systems try to hold on and try to not to let you do the things exactly the way you want to do. So the system is a little bit complex on that sense. And it's more than 12 years that I have been dealing and working with this, with different levels of visions of view and understanding. So at a certain point, I decided to work with mindfulness, for instance. And I found a friend. He's a doctor, a PhD in mindfulness, and we joined together to try to work mindfulness in the legal profession. So, and I learned to meditate when I was just a kid with my father, for instance. So it's something that I was accustomed to. Né? When I was a kid, I had books like Tao Te Ching and Bhagavad Gita, things like this when I was a kid. So I decided to come back to this and try to help people and try to help me more than everything else to understand how to live in this world. And with mindfulness and then I jumped to Vedanta, for instance, for non-duality and things like this. I don't know
I'm sorry,
if
what did you say? I just didn't quite understand. After mindfulness, you jumped into what?
to Vedanta, which is the study of Bhagavad Gita, for
Okay.
instance, and non-duality. So something that's too web, it's pretty deep in, is non-duality.
Yeah.
I jumped
As soon as
in
you
all
said
of this.
non-duality, I thought Stu Webb. Yeah,
Yes,
because
yes,
he has
yes,
taught me about a lot about that as well.
yes. So, but the point is that, and then you have to realize the higher self and the consciousness and the non-duality is because there is no two, there is only one, which is the consciousness of everybody. So I realize all of this and how to make this practical in this world. It's hard, and I'm keeping trying to figure out how to use this. Otherwise, people start thinking that you are talking nonsense and things like a guru. And I don't know. That's the work that I have trying to do, is to understand how to join these knowledges in a balanced way, in a language that can communicate, and you cannot see me as a crazy guy that has realization, illumination, and is not more part of this world.
So it sounds like there was an initial pause, but in that initial pause, you did more studying, you did more work, and you drew upon some past practices with mindfulness, you took additional courses, and that just shows that it's an ongoing process. It's not,
Yes,
and it sounds like you're still learning and you're still growing and still figuring it out.
exactly.
And that's part of the journey.
Exactly. Exactly.
And you have to do that so that it becomes known and other people can experience it or test it out or to see it. But for all the early practitioners of collaborative law, integrative law, I just see you as pioneers going forward and sharing what you know with others so that it can expand and grow.
I try to do this. I really try to do this. Life gave me those opportunities. For instance, when I brought, I don't know, maybe 2012, Don back to Brazil with the spiral dynamics trainings. I was responsible to bring him to Brazil. And it was amazing for a large group of people. And then when I brought Kim to Brazil for 2 trainings in conscience contract, I really try. I dedicate myself to try to bring those peoples The same was with non-defensive communication with Sharon Allison. I went to Canada at the time, at Toronto, if I'm not wrong, and took a deep course with her and tried to bring the idea to Brazil. It's something that I like to do. I like to travel abroad. I like to learn. I like to study, and I like to teach. That's the point. And I'm always trying to figure out how can I make things different, because I feel in my bones, in my flesh, how difficult is this system, how difficult it's to work with something that you believe, because it's very beautiful on the speech. Everybody says beautiful things about mediations, for instance. Oh, this is the dialogue. Okay, but when you put it in practice, it's different. For instance, mediators. I have been teaching mediations in courses and things like this. But those people, they can go to the market and work and receive something for that, or they starting to be frustrated because there are no clients and people don't pay for that, or they don't value as much as should be. So I think that my mission, how can I say that, is to try to figure it out, and I can say that I didn't figure it out yet, how to make this paradigm shift, how it can be feasible, concrete, not only ideological, but how to put it in practice. And I'm trying to do that. Nowadays, I'm trying to develop, I don't know if it's going to work, but it's a project that I've been deep in, is to try to use technology, a new language, to help people with technology to solve their conflicts. It's not a platform. I'm not talking about to have a platform of mediation, for instance, that you can use platforms and video calls to work with mediation, because you have the human to the mediator, you have time consuming, you have to spend money, and no, but how to help to spread in a language that connects people. How can I'm trying to do this with technology to be a more range, a more scale, to try to help people to understand how to negotiate their issues, how to mediate their issues, how to conciliate that, how to spread this culture of peace. And so this is something that I'm trying to figure out how to do it with technology. Because I could say to you that I am tired, I'm very tired to try to do it by my own. I don't have too much time for that. I have a limit space, I have a limit impact doing by my own. For instance, the mediations, when I have to work in mediations, I spend like 10 hours, 15 hours in one mediation. And I have to charge for that. And it's not cheap, it's expensive. I'm talking about a sum of money that is important. And I can help one couple, two couples, partners. I think I want to do something bigger. I really want to do something bigger that spread around in a different way, in an accessible way. This for me is very important. We have to try to understand how to use the technology and yes, the artificial intelligence as well, as much as possible, to help people. When we're talking about non-defensive communication, for instance, well, if we could do something that help people to understand that when they are communicating, they are in a process of defense themselves. And the communication is the first step and the first defense that we have, and the most primitive defense that we have. And how much harm a defensive communication brings us.
How is that in comparison to non-defensive communication? The name of itself seems to, I myself find myself getting defensive in conversations where I have to put myself
Yes.
in check. So I think if there's a training or a course on non-defensive communication, sign me up. I need to, that's something for me personally.
Yes, you need to try to see Sharon Strand Allison. She's great. She's in the United States too, and so it's fine to find her. I think she also should be friend of Kim Wright too. And well, Non-defensive communication and non-violent communication maybe are two different approaches. They try to bring something that is pretty similar, but in different approaches. We have different authors and different thinkers in relation to those two topics. When we're talking about non-violent communication, we are talking about Marcello Rodante and all the non-violent communication that we know about it, which is great because try to bring people together heart by heart and things like this, which is pretty awesome. Non-defensive communication, it took a different path, I could say, because Sharon thought differently. What Sharon saw, what she discovered, can I say that, is that we use the communication as a model of war. That's why
it's communication as a model of war.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So our communication is our first and more preeminent defense that we have. Every time that we felt attacked and we felt humiliated or something like this or diminished, there is a barrier that's going to cover us, and this is our defense. And then we starting to see the other part as our enemies. And we see our enemies in the war. And in the war and in the communication, we have two main reactions that normally occurs. Or we fight because we think that we should fight, because in the war you fight when you think that you are more powerful than the other. You have more power, then you fight. You have more reason, let's say in communication. You know that you are right, so you are going to fight. You are going to accuse. You are going to throw a package of energy in the communication to the other, okay? So we attacked, we fight. Other possible reaction is to fly, you get out, you fly. You leave the situation, you run the situation, So you fight or you fly. When you fly, when you leave the situation, when you don't want the combat, and so there is an absence of reaction, I freeze. That's a possibility too. I don't respond. I cancel the people. I get off. I just jump off the WhatsApp group of the family. Things like this. It's a reaction that you just go away and you block. Or other thing that is not. It's complicated, but it's a reaction that happens too. You surrender. When you attack, you are being violent with the other. When you surrender, you are being violent with yourself. You are accepting a situation that you don't feel comfortable, but you accept, you surrender. In the war model, there is a soldier with a gun pointed to you, you just surrender yourself, okay? So those components happens in the communication very often. So, and she brings us this clarity, this consciousness about our types of defensive models. And she works in a way that she tries to open up the communication by being vulnerable, by being yourself, and understand that you don't have too much to defend. You are defending your ego, you are defending your ideas. But maybe maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you should try to work the communication in order to open up the space. So, and she works a lot of tools and skills to open up the communication. How you do questions, how you do statements, how you do predictions. So, and then she works to try to make things different in the communication.
We are taking a brief break from this conversation to ask for your financial support. With each episode, we hope you can see how lawyers and peacemakers like you are contributing to the healing of the world. It takes many kinds of resources for the integrative law movement to keep going and affecting change. Your monetary donation can help us continue this important work by supporting the activities and the members of this community. Each contribution goes to promote the stability and accessibility of the movement and to support basic expenses like our Mighty Network group, web hosting, social media and event management, and this Integrative Lawyers of the World podcast. Because we like to give people choices, we have ongoing monthly options to match your budget, or you can make a one-time donation. Thanks to our non-profit corporate sponsor, the Renaissance Law Society, US supporters are able to make tax-deductible donations. Supporters from other countries, please check your local tax laws. To help establish confidence in your choice to support us, we have set up an open, collective, transparent plan to track how the community money is spent. For ways to support the integrative law movement and our world-changing work, go to our website at www.integrativelaw.com and click on Support the Movement tab at the top of the page. Another great way to support us is to rate us 5 stars and comment, like, follow or subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, Google, YouTube, or your favorite podcast platform. These ratings and interactions help us get seen and heard by even more people to make an even stronger impact. Thank you for your support and spending time with us today. Enjoy the rest of this conversation.
You can respond with a curiosity, maybe, instead of a defensiveness. So when everyone always talks about the importance of self-healing and starting with yourself, it seems like it seems very direct when it comes to just basic communication, and that's something that we all do every day. I was taking a meditation mini course of sorts. It was more of like a meditation group of friends where we got together and someone was facilitating it. And the facilitator was telling a story how when he was in the workplace, someone like just really got into his face and was really upset, like, and you did this and this, and the person's just yelling and yelling. And I'm thinking if that was me, the typical reaction would be to stand your ground and like go back. And instead of going back defensively, he said, after, doing some work on his own, his response was just looking at that person and saying, wow, you are very upset by this. And let's talk about it. Obviously this really upset you. And not in how his tone was completely non-judgmental, non-defensive, but just curious. And to be able to get into that space where you can, when someone's coming after you to still be strong, but yet loving, I could see where that would take practice.
When I got more meditations practice and I pray and I am more calm and things like this, I think that my communications get better. But suddenly, I don't know for which reason, but we don't pay too much attention for the energy that surrounds us. We have some struggle here, some fight over there, some client that calls you with some problems, and then your energy is starting to be more dense, and then your communication starting to be more defensive. So we have to be aware of that and work it as an habit, of course.
For me, it is getting up in the morning, writing in my journal. First thing, whatever comes to mind. It's just like a flow, a stream of consciousness in my journal. 3 pages, I'm done. Meditate in yoga. And when I do and then there's the standing affirmations, right? When I do those consistently, there's less arguments in my life. I tend to feel like I get more inspiration, more inspired ideas. Maybe everything doesn't necessarily flow better, but it feels as if it does.
Yes.
Yet, there are times where I stop. Like right now, I'm kind of in a break from my daily practices, and I can sense it. And so there's a part of me that, beats myself up. These things are good for you. You know that they're practice. Why did you take a break? So when you just said, we're human, that going up and down, it's okay. And maybe I don't have to beat myself up for in the lulls of the good practices.
when you are meditating, the thoughts, they are coming and going, coming and going. And you can work a proposal in your meditation. And for instance, and suddenly you recognize that you are thinking something that is completely different than you should thinking about. You are thinking about you have to go to the market. You are thinking about the novel. And the point is that you recognize in the meditation that you are jumping off the road and you come back. And you come back to your center, you come back to the breathing, you come back. So
Yes.
you are the observer of everything that's going on. And then you are breathing and you are focused on the breath or in relaxation of the body. Okay. And then blah, 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 blah. There are thoughts that are coming and going. Okay. Thoughts are not permanent, they just pass away. But the point is the exercise. It's not to be in that position that you just breathe and you are perfect. No, the exercise is just when you go out and you come back. You come back. So that's the exercise. I know I can come back. So maybe what we're talking about is that no problem if we got defensive. That's not a problem. If you are out of mood, the point is how can we are able to recognize that and come back better, And all that we are talking about, I think it's so related to conflict management.
So, how do you bring non defensive communication into your legal work?
Maybe we could talk about three perspectives.
Okay.
Okay. The first one is to my life as a human being, as a professional. How can I communicate with people? How can I communicate, understand that my feelings, my thoughts, if I'm more nervous or not, the way that I speak, and the way that I receive communication from the others and things like this. So this is for me in my profession. The second in non-defensive communication is about teaching. It's about the courses, the lectures, and try to spread this idea, which I think it's great, from Sharon Allison, the mother of this specific method. It's in the academic field, would I say that, the lecture. And the other way is to help people in the mediations or in the process, to help them to understand the way that they communicate. Me as a mediator, me as a lawyer working with a couple that want to get divorced, I can see the way that they communicate and I can bring light and clarity to the way that they communicate. It's not so much about related to me, but to them. And I can see nowadays, I really can see like a packages of information and energy that one is throwing to the other. And I can really see the consequences of what's going to happen because he's speaking like this or she's speaking like that, and they are being violent with each other. So it helps me as a professional to help them to try to understand. And there is a method to that. There is a way to try to make this in a smooth way. Otherwise, it's going to be judgmental, it's going to be rushed, as everything else. So I think for the legal profession, it's almost the core of the conflicts, because conflicts are human relations. Human relations has conflicts, and how we manage this conflict, how we communicate, how we negotiate, how to attend people's interests and perspectives, how to understand their values, talking about contracts.
You had mentioned also spiral dynamics. Can you explain more about spiral dynamics?
It's try to state that we have models of consciousness related to the way that we live and we view the world. For instance, in 10,000 years ago, we live in a situation that we need to feed ourselves and we have to have food and have to procreate, period. That was the model of existence of that time. And we were evolving. We were getting more complex. So new models of consciousness, new problems, new solutions, new way of thinking. And then like a spiral, because this is spiral dynamics, because it goes up and it goes down. So there is an idea that everything is embedded with a package of information and it's replicated. And when you go into the spiral dynamics, you understand why, for instance, policemen work in that way, how politicians work in that way, how priests work in that way, the communities, the entrepreneurs, everybody is in a certain model because they view the world in a certain way. So the idea is to bring clarity to all those models, try to make a jump into a higher level to try to see that everything is connected. So it's a theory that Don Beck, for instance, used to help Nelson Mandela in the apartheid, for instance. Don Beck went to Africa do Sul and to help Mandela more than 80 times traveling abroad to try to help them to understand, to use this specific model to understand the problems that they had at the time. So it's a theory that is very impact, but I don't know exactly why. There's a lot of prejudice in this theory because normal people that don't understand the theory, they starting to label people. You are this, you are that, you are this, you are that, and they label people.
So if someone just has like an overview of the theory, they may start labeling people thinking that they're applying the theory, but it's really not a full understanding of the theory.
Yes, that's not the point, you know, because for instance, and Dombeck tried to use colors to try to not to say, this level of consciousness is better than this one, that is better than this one. No, they have different types of complexity, and they try to put colors on that. For instance, if you have the red are those people or those institutions or those films or those musics or those whatever you want to say, that are trying to use power. They are trying to make things in their way. They are more combative. They have this energy, this power energy. Okay, it's just an example. Another level of consciousness is the blue. So they are more organized, they are structured, everything has exactly a place to put on and things like this. And then you go to another level. For instance, orange. Orange are those people that are academic, that are entrepreneurs, that they want to make money. Time is money, so let's make money because life is about money. And there are the greens. The greens are the idea that life is a collective group of people and we need to be together with each other and we have to live in community. So there are different types: power, organization, money, and collectiveness.
And can one person move through the different types?
Yes, exactly. And people move depending on how they respond to the world, because depending on how you respond to the world, you are going to go. And the point is that all these models exist for a long time. So nowadays, 2022, we have books, music, literature of all those types of models. Okay, if you go split it in the time, 10,000 years, 1,000 years ago, it was different. Now we have technology, we have everything that we have now. So we have to face that, but prevails a certain way of being. Some of these models prevails. So you can be more like this, more like that, more like that, or more like that. People that like yoga, people that like constellation, normally are people that has this green energy more. And the point is that we could call it as egos, and they fight with each other. That's the point. That's the problem.
Kind of like when we're talking about people's ideas of lawyers being a litigator. You think that they have this role to play, and that role should talk. I'm putting should talk in this manner. Um, is that part of it too, understanding the different roles or levels of society and the communication styles attributed to that role?
That's exactly. For instance, if you think about this red space, let's say space, red space, not red people, but red energy. You have lawyers that are going to the court and are the sharks, and they love justice, they love arguments. We can also have a bunch of lawyers in the blue zone because they think about law and how should be everything, and everything is that there's a structure and everything should be in the way, otherwise the world is going to collapse. They live that energy, they believe on that system, they view the world as a place that they need to struggle to survive. They see the world as a place that they need to structure the world, otherwise the world's going to collapse. So this form of view make this kind of lawyers work in some way. If we are thinking about business lawyers, they want to make money. They are not concerned with litigation, things like this. They are thinking in a creative way to make more money. I don't want to discuss with you. Let's make a deal. This negotiation approach, this let's make a deal approach, it's different. So you can see that the energy is different, the language is different, the way that they communicate is different. And if you see people that want to say, no, please, let's make peace. Let's try to figure out the way that everybody can live together in a better way. We are talking about a different scale, a different level. The point is that there are all these levels. There are people in all these levels. Where are we? Because we are also being in a position that we are in a certain level. How can we recognize that? How can we dialogate with them? Use a language that connects to all these points.
Why is this important to understand?
I think it's the same challenging that we have to just to live. Are we going to be a better person? Are we going to use all the skills, all the knowledge that we receive from the life, from the universe, in a way that connect us, in a way that we are fulfilling our mission? What is our mission? I don't know. What is our mission? Maybe I think that is to evolve, is to live a life that is meaningful for me. So why to understand that? Because it brings knowledge and it makes me more able to try to live a life that's meaningful for me.
And kind of how you were talking before about being in a process of including and transcending and not excluding. So being aware of these different communication styles, you can then have room to include people who talk in a different way or communicate in a different way than you. And that helps bring our connection.
Exactly, that's the point. For me, this theory is so important to me. It's so structured to me. So that I think with this theory, but I really try not to label them. For me, it's like this: to be a lawyer, how can I understand the spiral and see the law profession, all the spiral? And how can we help people in different levels with the specific approach that is more feasible and more adapted to each model? That's the point.
Oh, I can see
So we
that.
can talk. We can talk about restorative justice. We can talk about constellation. We can talk about negotiation, mediation. We can talk about litigation. We can talk about, because we are talking in different scales with different approaches, and there is no approach that is better than the other one, because this is a spaces of energies, spaces of consciousness, that models that apply to respond a certain types of problems.
The lawyer can help come in and be the translator between the different communication styles. Whether you're a business lawyer, restorative justice lawyer, litigator, understanding that can help you move your parties or help you move your clients forward.
That's perfect. The language, it's your example. For instance, there is in a room a Japanese, an American, a Russian, and I don't know what, a Brazilian. They speak different languages, and so they can't understand each other. And the point is that if you have a red, a blue, an orange, and a green in the same room, they are going to see the world in a different, completely different way, and they are not going to communicate if they are creative, on that kind of color. Of course, nobody's, there's a mix. It's okay, but imagine people that is pretty red, pretty blue, pretty orange, and pretty green. They are going to dress differently. They are going to talk different, using different words, see the world in a different way. So that's the point. To understand that, it's a master key to understand those relations and conflicts. That's a little bit about the theory.
How do you view the role of a lawyer in making a positive impact or a change or being a part of society? What role do you think lawyers have as this?
I think that we have two main perspectives to that thinking by myself. One is lawyers as a healers, a change makers. We try to contribute to a better world in a sense that we think it is a better world, of course. And we try to do things more non-violent and make people be more aware and things like this. I think it's is our role. I think if we could say that there is a role, I don't know if you can say that there is a role, but if there is a role, maybe I would choose with my free will to work like this, to try to help people to have a better life. Okay. But when we talk about lawyers as healers, we have to understand that we are understanding that there is illness, that there is something to be cured. There is a disease or something like this. And maybe for me, this is a limitations of the view of the cosmos. Because if you understand that the cosmos is pure perfection, everything is exactly how it should be. There is no health and illness. No, there is only being. So if we understand that, I'm going to struggle with the idea of being a healer. I am being a healer, so how can I be? How can I fix something? Because the cosmos is perfect. Everything is exactly how it should be. So I have these two ways of saying, but I think one it's more abstract,
Yeah, yeah.
and the other is more concrete. In the concrete world, I could say that we have to help people to help each other and help people to live better. Okay, period. But we have to take in mind that this concept lead us to idea that the cosmos is not perfect, and we have to help the cosmos to be fixed. And maybe this is an illusion. This is something that make us trying to be better and try to fight and struggle with everything, struggle with the universe, which is silly, which is silly. Maybe try to accept the situation how it is, maybe to try to see that everything is just perfect. And besides that, at the same time, if we are living this plane, so let's try to do something. Let's try to do something that makes sense to us.
That is, you conceptualize those two like theories that can, when I think about it deeply, it can really I can get lost in the thought process. Like the different, one of my friends once shared a quote or a saying with me that everything is in perfect and divine order in this moment. And hearing that in times of stress or in times of hardship, I would say that to myself, and it would just give me a sense of a space to breathe and to accept what was going on and trusting that it was ultimately going to lead to something better for myself or for the situation. So I get that and I believe that, but then at the same time is like when you look around at the the concrete level of the world in front of us, and you see racial injustice, you see extreme poverty, you see war. How can that be perfect and divine order, all these things? And so just how you explain that, it's been a dialogue that an inner dialogue I've been having, and you articulated it so nicely. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Okay. And this is a very important question, a complex question. If we go into the Bhagavad Gita, for instance, if we are talking about the talkings about Krishna and Arjuna, we are going to find some responses to that. And Krishna is going to say that the cosmos is just perfect. You don't have to be worried about anything. Okay.
What does integrative law mean to you?
I think to be an integrative lawyer is to be a lawyer that is able to bring a variety of approaches to their legal profession, to their legal activity, so they can include and transcend. To be an integrative lawyer is to not necessarily knowing the theory of spiral dynamics, but without the label of the theory, is to work as the theories tell us, that there is a range of people, a range of views, a range of approaches, as much as you can bring to your professional life, as more integrative you are going to be. So to be an integrative lawyer, it's a process, a never-ending process. You are always learning, you are always reviewing, you are always visiting new ideas, and you are trying to understand more and more the complexity of the world. You know, that's a never-ending process. That's why I like the spiral idea. It's always going up. It's not a triangle thing like this. So no, it's a process that's going up and going down, because we go up and we go down.
What is it that has drawn you to conscious contracts or collaborative law?
I think all these approaches are absolutely linked. They are all linked and connected. When we talk about communication, negotiation, mediation, collaborative practice, and conscious contracts, maybe we could talk about different moments. When we are talking about mediation, maybe we are talking to an approach for people that are in conflict and they need a response. And we're talking about conscious contracts when we are in the beginning of the relation. So we are forming the relation. Maybe it's more applicable to that situation. And of course, when we talk about conscious contracts, we are talking about a way of being in a relation in a way that you have more clarity about the values of the other, about the mission of the other. It's a way to see legal documents and legal relations in a way that we can work together. This is a guide to a successful relationship. This is not a legal document in order to try to make more guarantees to you or for me, depending on the struggle, who has more power. So we make a paradigm shift in these relations. We try to make the legal documents something that has some meaning for the client. So, but we are talking about, for me, we are talking when we are starting a relation. We are talking about mediation when people get into a conflict, and then we are going to use some tools. Collaborative practices, when we are going to use lawyers in order to try to build up an agreement. So for me, collaborative practice is to try to find out an agreement. And it brings the needs of transparency and things that normally people resist a little bit about that. They want to go into a collaborative process, okay, because they are going to try to reach an agreement. But my question, this is my main question to collaborative process, is that the parties ready to be transparent, really, truly transparent? And in my experience, I had a lot of experience on that, normally people resist to be transparent, truly transparent.
You have to be really vulnerable and allow yourself to be vulnerable to be transparent.
both of the parties in the conflict. So it's not so easy, but it's something that it's worth to try to work with this. The idea is great. The knowledge involved is great. The lectures, it's great. Well, but for me, everything that we have been discussing through this podcast, thank you so much for the opportunity. All of this is connected. Everything is truly connected. We just have to figure out how to put it in practice and how to balance all these crazy ideas of the higher self, the non-duality, mindfulness, communication, and litigation. And wow, there's so many things that we have to try to connect. And this is the cosmos that we have been talking to, that it's just perfect. We just have to recognize all this perfection. If you ask me, I really have inside my heart this non-duality idea, in this higher self, in this Vedanta practice. I have this. I understand the concepts of Maya, illusion, and I think this is all illusion, and I think this is all perfect. Despite the fact that we see violence, despite the fact that we see a lot of things that we would like to be different. But I truly believe in that. But I need to live, and I need to communicate, and I need to be in a world that not everybody thinks that way. And I have to respect that. But this also brings me some inner peace and inner clarity. So I just dance the music of the world. So, okay, for me, I'm here. Let's dance.
I dance to the music of the world. I love that. That's wonderful.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you next time. And I hope to keep exchanging information with these people. I saw lots of interviews that you had in the podcast, a lot of beautiful people. So for me, it's an honor to be part of this movement and trying to help people and try to help me to live in a better place and a better world.
Well, thank you so much for being part of Integrative Lawyers of the World. If anyone wants to contact you or to find out more information about you, where should they go?
My mail is Rodante at rcna.com.pr. Everybody can mail me, or in the social media. My name is my social media. My professional social media is at Pro Consenso, or my personal Instagram, which is m.rodante. So you can find me on the social media with no problem at all. And for me, it's an honor to be part of this. And who wants to get in contact? Well, let's talk and let's think together new ideas and new solutions.
Let's talk and think together. I hear that. Again, thank you so much for being a part of Integrative Lawyers of the World.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.